Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the ARCA Menards Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's edition of the ARCA Menards Series Rewind show, still getting used to that, but I think I'm getting better at remembering to say ARCA Menards Series now. On this edition, we're looking back at Saturday night's Lucas Oil 200 from the Daytona International Speedway. I know we're a little behind on this. I do apologize for that. But we're getting it out for you nonetheless, catching you up on what happened this weekend at Daytona. Post-race thoughts from the winner and all of that coming up, so stick around for that. But we're going to start off with the race results. We were working to try and get highlights for this show, and that was the reason that it was this late, and unfortunately we're still working through the process of actually getting those highlights. NASCAR's been a little slow to actually get those to us, so unfortunately not quite there with the highlights yet, but I mean, we'll have them for the preview show for Pensacola to look back on this race. I guess that's something, right? So anyway, that is something we're going to really try to have going forward on Rewind shows, is highlights for these races. Just it's been a long process getting that sorted out here, longer than I anticipated. So we're just going to go ahead and get this out now without highlights. So go to the race results for this race, and Harrison Burton is your winner. His third career ARCA Menards Series win, and his first at Daytona International Speedway in his first start at the World Center of Racing. Ran a fantastic race, led the vast majority of the race, out front most of the day with his teammate Christian Eckes pushing him. Just a fantastic run out of Harrison Burton. He got the job done. Some great practice, if you will, for his truck race coming up on Friday night, also at Daytona. That would be a great way to start off his full season in the trucks, with a win at Daytona. Todd Gilliland came home in the second position, hung out at the back most of the race, found his way in the front late, and just could not quite get there up to Harrison off of turn number 4 on the last lap to make a run and try to get the win himself. Quinlan came home with a strong third place finish. Christian Eckes, after riding in second most of the race, pushing his teammate Harrison Burton, got shuffled out a little bit off of turn 4 on the final lap and ends up in the 4th position. And Sean Corr comes home with a strong top 5 finish in 5th. Rest of your top 10 were Natalie Decker, Cody Robaugh, Travis Braden, Andy Seiss, and Riley Herbst rounded out the top 10. 11th through 20th, we actually had 35 cars in this race. Daytona historically usually is the largest entry list on the season, so not surprising that we have 35 cars in this race. Connor Hall, the highest finishing Chad Bryant racing car in the race, with Joe Graff Jr. having a lot of bad luck, not just in the race, but throughout the weekend. Connor Hall, even with a blown right rear at one point, spinning off of turn number 4, does salvage an 11th place finish in this race. Tyler Dipple came home in the 12th position. Bobby Gerhart down here in the 13th position, the Daytona legend in the ARCA Racing Series. Leilani Munter in her final race could only muster 15th at the end of the race. She had a fast car. She had a good race going, was inside the top 10 most of the night, inside the top 5 for a lot of it even. Had a very fast car. Out of the 4 Venturini cars, I think they had decided that she was the best leader out of them, so if they could have shuffled her to the front, I think they would have. Unfortunately, I don't think that opportunity ever presented itself. And then she gets caught up in the wreck that threw us into overtime in this race, and was only able to limp home for a 15th place finish in her final race. I'm sure not the result she was looking for, but she did have a good race nonetheless, even if it was not the result that she was looking for. Brett Holmes down here in the 18th position, starting off yet another full season in the ARCA Racing Series, sitting in third with 2 laps to go before we got Little two-car tango going with Brandon McReynolds and Todd Gilliland down the backstretch. Gilliland pushing a little aggressively, trying to get to the finish of the race. Unfortunately, turned Brandon McReynolds. That caught Brett Holmes and a few other cars. And that would be the end of Brett Holmes' night as we went into overtime from that wreck. Holmes had a fantastic run going there at the end of the race. Unfortunately, Brett just not able to get the finish that he probably deserved in this race, and now sits in just a bit of a hole going forward here. 21st through 30th, Joe Graff Jr. we see down here in the 21st position. We mentioned just not a lot of luck on his side this weekend. Didn't have a lot of speed throughout the weekend. Then seemed to have some mechanical issues in this race. Just not the weekend I think Joe Graff Jr. was looking for. I'm sure they're just happy to get out of Daytona and get on with the rest of the season. 3 laps down in 21st was Joe Graff Jr. Brandon McReynolds, Gus Dean, Thad Moffitt down here 25th, 26th. 27th, McReynolds, Gus Dean getting caught up in that accident that sent us into overtime. Thad Moffitt getting taken out a few laps before that. The two Vision Motorsports cars down here in 29th and 30th, Brendan Queen in 29th, and Paul Williamson in the 30th position. Final page, 31st through 35th. We see Michael Self here in the 31st position, 38 laps down. Not the start to the season that Michael was looking for as he looks to chase a championship this season in that 25 car. Lap number 2 got turned down the backstretch by Willie Mullins, who was just trying to bump draft down the backstretch, may have been slightly too aggressive with it, and ends up turning Michael Self. Michael actually going airborne for just a moment in this wreck, but did come back down on all fours. Both cars went behind the wall. That was the end of Willie Mullins' night. Michael's crew went back there, worked on the car, got him back out, and was able to salvage a few positions at the end of the race. Those might be the points that he needs at the end of the season. You never know, and that's why points racing is so important. That's why you see cars come out and end up limping around at the end of the race, because you might end up gaining a couple of positions, and that could be the difference at the end of the season in the championship. Willie Mullins, of course, down here in the 35th position. Like I said, after that wreck, he just pulled it behind the wall, and that was the end of his night very early. All right, that's your results from the Lucas Oil 200. Now let's head over to the Media Center, and we've got some post-race thoughts for you from a lot of folks. Harrison Burton, Jeff Burton, Mike Hillman Jr., the crew chief, Billy Venturini. We've got them all for you here from the Media Center. So let's head over there, and we'll see what all of them thought after this race.
Yeah, absolutely. My Frontline Enterprises Toyota Camry was perfect. I could do anything I wanted, felt like make any lane go that I was in, and that's exactly what you want here. You don't get those cars very often, and second place is awesome. Coming from that far back, we were only up there for one restart. We came down on one of the early cautions and topped off on field. We came out in the lead on the pit stop where everyone came in, but then I don't think we got it full or something, so we had to come back down. So that kind of killed our chances to stay up there. But from beyond that, I was going 110% every lane I could, anytime, and it ended up. Sometimes I was probably too aggressive, could have just stayed in the line I was in, but also sometimes it worked out. So that's all the stuff I got to learn still. Hopefully I can be in victory lane next weekend. Obviously, it's cool for Harrison and working with Christian as well. All three of us are going to be at KBM next weekend. So a lot to be learned still, but overall a good race.
Yeah, that's exactly it there. We were kind of tagging along there behind Todd, and the 28, we got caught up at the beginning there with some debris on the grill, so we had to come down to get that off and kind of set us back in the pack, right? So we tagged along with them 3 and just picked away, and as the restarts went, we kept trying to get as many spots as we could and not give up anything. That was kind of the key, right? So at the end of the race there, the final restart come around, we were in position to finish 3rd.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a theme going on there because. Okay, hold on. We'll figure it out here.
1 2 1 2.
On the top.
Watch this.
Well, this one
Fixed.
All right, we got it now.
Done this morning.
All right. Yeah, Mike's won more than me, so he knows how to do that. No, so I guess I have a good theme. I need to just run the first of my, career races everywhere because I won my first race at Pocono, won my first race at Daytona, so that's really cool. I just need to keep that going somehow because next time I went to Pocono didn't go quite as well. So, to win at Daytona is so special, and I wanted to, do a crazy burnout, but then I just wanted to take it in too. So I kind of did both and just kind of cruised around and looked at the fans and everyone out there, and it was really cool, a really humbling experience to win at Daytona for sure.
So we saw the 20 car up front most of the night. How difficult was it for you to work your way to the front? I know it can be a little difficult to pass with this aero package, but it seemed like you were able to work your way up there pretty easily.
Yeah, we just had a good initial start, and that was big. We got all of our people in a row, and then we got up to fourth. And then once we got to fourth, I think it was Thad was in front of me. He cleared himself down, and that left me the first car on the top. So just went to work side drafting and kind of moving my way up one car at a time, and finally cleared my teammate. Christian, I think, was leading at the time. I cleared down on him. And that really put us in control for the rest of the race. That put us in a good spot. We had a really good pit stop. Taking fuel only was obviously the right move, and I think that just a whole bunch of things went into us being able to lead that many laps and still come out on top. That's hard to do at Daytona for sure.
Well, it's pretty high, but not just because it's Daytona. I mean, Daytona is it's Daytona. It's just entrenched in NASCAR history, and winning here is so special. But more so because of the effort and the work and the dedication that it's taken to win this race. And Harrison, Mike, a group of people have worked. Brandon Lyons, a spotter, Blake Cook, who's working with Harrison. I mean, they've been working their ass off. They didn't just come down here and say, well, I wonder what Daytona's about. I mean, they came down here prepared. And, Mike has taken time away from his work at the truck. Harrison is wakes up early in the morning, go to the gym, and get everything he can by going, he's still going to high school. And the work that it's taken to get this win makes it just way more special. It just didn't happen, and the dedication and, the guy, Billy and his team, they do the same thing at the shop. But watching your son or any of your children work their butts off and succeed, I think that's the most gratifying thing in the world. And that's what we saw tonight was because of a lot of hard work.
This place it's special because of the history, and it's just a pinnacle of our sport. The thing that's tough is having the fastest race car here doesn't always reward you, but luckily the last couple of years we have been rewarded. We've had fast race cars, and then drivers have done flawless jobs. He did Harrison's job today was top notch. I mean, it's so hard for unless you're a true expert of knowing what you were watching, and like Jeff is obviously, but that's why he was kind of bragging on Harrison so much was he just did everything right. I mean, even on that last lap, he knew right where to put him on the back of his car. I mean, there's this true art to that, and the guys that are good at it are just special plate racers, and he did an awesome job. It's hard to believe it's his first time here.
Oh, absolutely. We put a lot of effort into coming down here and being prepared, and this is a good warm-up, a good way to learn the racetrack, learn a little bit about drafting, come on pit road, lead pit road, and important for me to be here. I want to thank Billy and his guys for letting me come down and hang out, help Harrison, and be part of it. I see Kevin Reed's walking in, and Shannon Rush and all these guys at the shop work really, really hard to build really, really fast Venturini cars. And it was cool to sit on the pit box and get to race one tonight and take it to victory lane. My hat's off to how hard they work. I've been to their shop 2 or 3 times and talked about things, and this is a top-notch organization in racing, period, not just ARCA.
And we are also joined by winning crew chief Kevin Reed. And Kevin, as you reminded me earlier in the week, you're no stranger to victory lane here. What is this win for?
That's 4, yes.
How was your week with Harrison? The input that you had from him, how does that help your job?
Well, as a whole, I mean, we worked as
Christian's crew chief.
Christian's crew chief.
Do you still get any credit for this?
He builds the cars. He builds them all.
Hell yeah, they get credit. Now, everybody that works at Venturini, that whole place works as one group every time I walk in there. And, I think that's my hats off to Kevin and Billy. And so, yes, Kevin gets a lot of credit because, the guys that just come in, and me and Harrison been doing our work on the side, but these guys made sure these race cars were ready to go and fast, and everybody's seen that in the test and all weekend this weekend.
All right, let's take a look at your point standings for the ARCA Menards Series before we wrap up here tonight. And the thing about these particular point standings is most of these drivers are not running a full season. So the current point standings here really don't mean a lot, as they will change drastically even one race from now once we get through the race at Five Flags Speedway. So let's go ahead and just look through the drivers that are running a full-time schedule, or that at least we believe are running a full-time schedule. I count 8 drivers on this list that are probably running a full-time schedule, or 100% confirmed are running a full-time schedule. Christian Eckes, of course, being the top driver of those with 220 points. He currently sits 3rd in the overall standings. Travis Braden currently is 2nd among the full-time drivers. He currently sits in the 8th position, 30 points behind Christian Eckes. Brett Holmes is the next driver full-time, down in the 18th position. He currently sits 80 points behind Eckes. Brad Smith right behind him in 19th, 85 points behind Eckes. Joe Graff Jr., the 5th guy full-time on this list, 21st in current points. He is 95 points behind Eckes. Con Nicolopoulos, I'm assuming, is running a full schedule this year. Has yet to be seen, but I'm assuming he's at least going to attempt most of the races. 22nd currently in points. He sits 6th among the believed full-time drivers, 100 points behind Christian Eckes. Thad Moffitt down here, not sure if he's running a full schedule or not. We're putting him on here right now because I have a feeling he is, but I'm not really sure. 27th currently in the point standing, 7th among the believed full-time drivers, 115 points behind Christian Eckes. And then Michael Self down here, 8th among the full-time drivers, 31st in current points, 145 points behind his teammate Christian Eckes. That is a huge gap, one race into the season for Michael Self. He has an incredible hole to dig out of. It could have been a bigger hole, though. That's the thing. They got the car back out there, salvaged a couple of positions. It could have been a bigger hole for Michael Self than it is currently. So it's not as bad as it could have been, but it's still pretty bad. That's a big hole to dig out of, but we've still got 19 races left. All it takes is a bad race for Christian Eckes, and Michael Self wins, finishes top 5, whatever, and all of a sudden he's erased most of that deficit. So while it looks bad at the moment, it just takes one bad race for Eckes, and Michael Self is back in this. But then, at the same time, you have to look at these other drivers, Travis Braden, Brett Holmes, Joe Graff Jr., that are also have a pretty good gap on Michael Self. Eckes has a bad race. That just leapfrogs them up, and then Self doesn't really gain much on them. So it's going to be interesting going forward to see if Michael can dig out of this hole. I think he can. I think he's got the talent to do it. We've got a long season ahead of us, but that's a big hole to dig yourself into at the beginning of the season. And really, he didn't even dig himself into it. It was completely out of his control. And it's luck of the draw. It's Daytona. But I have confidence he will be able to dig himself out of this, and we'll have a really good championship battle here on our hands by the end of the season. But I believe that'll do it for us on this ARCA Menards Series Rewind show. I almost got through the whole show without screwing that up, but almost slipped and did not call it ARCA Menards Series. But we're gonna have that down eventually. It's hard to get that down, but when you've been calling it ARCA Racing Series for so long, it's hard to reprogram the brain to call it ARCA Menards Series now. But we're gonna get there. So. I believe that'll do it for us on this K&N Pro Series Rewind coming up tonight as well, to recap their rain-delayed race from New Smyrna Speedway that ended up running last night, Monday night, from New Smyrna Speedway. Derek Kraus, the winner in that one. So that rewind coming up later as well. So keep an eye out for that, and more cool stuff coming up as well. Diecast review, as usual, coming up on Wednesdays. We continue to look at 2018 Race to Win diecasts. I'm not even sure which diecast is this week, so just tune in at noon tomorrow, and you'll find out about the time that I do, I guess. So if you haven't done it already, why don't you go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. And while you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do, and it helps us out so much when you do that. But at that, this has been the ARCA Menards Series Rewind show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.